Okay, today we're going to look at how to simplify a negative divided by a positive. First example, we're going to start with negative 4. So we're actually going to start over here. Okay? Now, what happens when you take negative 4 and divide by 2? Well, that means basically you break it up into two pieces. Here's one piece, and here's two pieces. Right? And so half of that in between would be what? Would be negative 2. It's real simple, right? Alright, let's look at the same kind of problem written a different way. This time we're going to start with positive 4, okay? And then we're going to divide that by 2. So here's 1/2 and here's the other half. So this is halfway in between. But once we divide that by 2, we're then going to make it negative. So basically you just go the opposite end on the number line and you end up at negative 2. And if you notice, both times we ended up with negative 2. And we're going to do this a few more times to see a trend. Let's take negative 6 and divide by 2. Well, what's half of negative 6? Well, there's the two pieces, so half of that is negative 3. Okay, now again like before, let's start with positive 6. And so right here, and I meant to make that color red. Okay, so we're starting with positive 6 and we're dividing that by 2. Well, if you take positive 6 and divide by 2, you end up with halfway between 0 and 6, which is 3, but let's not circle that actually. Let's then make that negative. So go to the opposite end of the number line and we end up at negative 3, just like we did before. So again, what we're seeing is negative 6 over 2 gives you the same answer as if you get 6 divided by negative 2. So these two are the same. And then before, I'll just go ahead and show this. Negative 4 over 2 is the same as negative, and then 4 divided by 2. Alright, let's do one more. Let's take negative 2 and divide by 3. Well, let's break this into thirds. So here's 1/3 of negative 2, 2/3. So here's the three pieces, right? But we'll go negative 2, and we're dividing that by 3, right? So 1/3 of that would be right here, which would be negative 2/3. And we kind of just gave away the answer because that's the same as if we took 2/3 and made it negative. So it ultimately ended up over here. Right? So therefore, what we've shown there is negative 2 over 3 is the same as negative 2/3. And in general, what we're seeing is the following. Negative a divided by b, and we're looking at the bottom here, is the same as if we just move the negative to the front. So we're taking the negative that's in the numerator and we're moving it out front. And that's why, because we always end up with the same answer regardless of how we do it. And that's what I love about math, is a lot of times we do something two different ways and we end up at the same exact place on the number line. Let's look at some examples together. Negative 7 divided by 5. And this problem says to simplify. Negative 7 divided by 5. And I'm going to go ahead and tell you this is real easy. All you have to do for all these problems is simply move the negative out front because of what I just showed you. So guess what? The answer is negative 7/5. And all we did was take the negative and move it out front. So kind of a different way of showing that, right? It's just take that negative and move it to the front of the number. Same thing for this one. The negative is going to come and it's going to move out front, and therefore the answer is negative and then the fraction x over y. How about this one? We have negative m divided by what? Whoops, that's a terrible arrow. Negative m divided by what gives you negative m over n? Well, actually all we've done, as you can kind of tell, actually it's shown this way, is take the negative and move it out front, so therefore these two must be what? They must be the same. Therefore, the answer is n. Okay, this one's also pretty, well, actually not terribly obvious. Some of you might put something wrong here and explain why that's not true. There is a negative here, right? So therefore there must be what here? Must also be a negative. So again, you can kind of think of it as the negative must have moved out front in order to end up at this answer. So therefore this number is not positive pi, but negative pi. Okay, if you'd put positive pi, you couldn't have ended up with a negative number, so it had to have been negative pi. Let's try a different color here. Okay, negative a times b over xy, and I'm doing this one just to show that yes, you can have more involved expressions. All you're doing is move the negative out front just like before, and therefore the answer is negative then ab divided by xy. It's very, very simple. You're just moving the negative out front. Same thing if you have a mixture of variables and constants. Again, all you're going to do is just move the negative out front, and the answer is negative, and then 3 over r. See, a lot of times, students, they know how to do this stuff, they just were never explained why, and that's why I showed it to you on the number line. You can do the same problem 2 different ways and end up at the same answer, and that's showing you why it's true. So always go back and look at those reasons. It'll help the concept solidify in your mind. Stay there forever. Okay, how about negative square root of 7 over 100? When you simplify that, well, it looks like we move the negative out front, so this one's actually really easy. Since we already moved the negative out front, the denominator must have stayed the same. So negative square root of 7 over 100 is the same as negative and then square root of 7 over 100. All we did again was just take the negative and move it out front. And that's all that there is to this lesson. So again, the name of this lesson is simplifying when you take a negative and divide by a positive. All you do is you move the negative out front like we're doing down here. Negative a over b is equal to moving the negative a out first and then the a over b.